right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
BoJack Horseman, Season 4, Episode 11, DEFCON 1, let's go.
We're ready.
Yep.
My
heart is going to be ripped apart.
You're like, all right,
Yep.
ready for it, you know, like.
It's going to be terrible, but it's also going to be awesome. And I'm weirdly optimistic about this one in a way that I'm usually not about 11 episodes.
I feel like optimism is a weird choice, but I understand the positive energy.
Mm-hmm. Like, there's definitely a bit of hopium in there, you know? But, like...
Right.
It's going to be bad, but I think it's going to be less bad than the ones we've gotten, which isn't saying much.
Right. BoJack's trajectory this season has been a pretty impressive one.
Mm-hmm.
He has overcome a lot of personal little hiccups that have come his way.
Yes.
He has adapted to them.
Mm-hmm.
The progress with regards to his daughter has been completely rinsed, though.
Mm-hmm.
And that needs to be acknowledged here.
Yep.
While there are some things that are still up in the air question-wise as to some interesting mechanical things that were discussed in the previous episode. I am very excited to see the curtains close, though, on the mother's angle of the story.
Yeah.
Because while she's not, like, dead or anything, she might be dead to BoJack now.
Oh,
and that's
100%.
That's an interesting thing to explore because she was the source of a majority of his abuse.
Exactly. And so
there's some interesting processing that he might do alongside that.
Yep.
But given that also he's just been in a low mental place for a while here and he doesn't have any immediate distractions here, they are setting up another potential job-related thing, though. Things can go that way, but...
Maybe this is where you lean on some friends, if they're there. Y'all, without further ado, let's get into this.
Time's arrow neither stands still nor reverses after all. It merely marches forward. Isn't that right, Henrietta?
Yes, Mrs. Horseman, that's right.
Oh my God.
Well, here we are.
Here?
Yes.
Ugh.
Holy shit, this is good.
Oh my God.
And this is all the cold open.
Yeah. Well, all right.
I don't think they need to elaborate. That scene did exactly what it needed to.
But imagine if we got an episode 11 of BoJack Horseman where the focus point of the suffering wasn't BoJack.
Whoa, no, we're continuing it.
You're hurting me!
Jeez.
Doctor says your throat is nearly swollen shut, so perhaps you'll finally lose some of that weight that's given you such troubles. Won't that be nice?
Yes, Father.
Oh my God.
Suck in, Miss Sugarman, please.
Polly, be a darling and fetch me a pretty pill and a glass of water, won't you?
Pretty pill, yeah.
Sugarman.
At least Ever's death means no one else will be assassinated this year, 1963. The FBI is on too high alert to allow anything like that to happen again.
Yes.
Well,
Father, common Americans don't want you on their TV sets. You're a reminder of the disparity of wealth in this country. Poor people find that dreadfully gauche.
you know, I sent you to Barnard to get your MRS from a fine, upstanding Columbia man. But instead of a bachelor, you returned home with a bachelor's degree and a mouthful of sass. What a waste.
Ooh. Whoa.
Huh.
Do I know you?
Nope, just crashing some dumb debutante's
Nice.
party.
Now it's Willinette's voice.
I
Nice.
mean for dumb to describe the party or the debutante. Because I might agree with you or I might be offended.
You're the dumb debutante, aren't you?
Beatrice Sugarman, welcome to my dumb party.
Butterscotch Horseman, charmed, I'm sure. What must your mother think of you?
Oh, she doesn't think much about anything anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did she pass?
No,
Mine did.
I'm very sorry to hear that.
I was little. I don't remember really. But she had a diamond just like yours. I saw it in a picture once. Yes, this is my mother.
What?
I'd like to leave her here. Can I pay for the next 5 years in a lump sum now so I don't have to think about her again?
Oh, geez. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Fuck.
Wow.
Oh, this is so good.
Mr. and Mrs. Joseph Sugarman present their daughter, Miss Beatrice Elizabeth Sugarman, chaperoned by Mr. Corbin C. Creamerman.
Look at her.
The way we just shadowed
every hurdle. Look at that form. What precise movements.
Excuse me, don't you know it's rude to leave without saying goodbye to the hostess?
Why don't you come with
yeah,
me?
the letters
It'll dispense with the need for goodbyes, thus eliminating my transgression.
You want me to leave my own party with you, the lowlife who wasn't even invited?
Yeah, but I suppose Daddy wouldn't like that, would he? Beatrice.
Corbin Creamerman is willing to give you a second chance. He is downstairs waiting, and you will be civil to him.
And the way they make
God, what a sigh.
is by replacing the milk fat with vegetable oil. My father is less enchanted. He says it's just squeezing money out of cow teats. I suppose that's true. But I got ideas too, and I feel I never get to be anything other than what he expects me to be.
Ooh,
You know what that's
the color.
Oh, and then the eyes.
Yeah.
You know, Corbin,
Yeah.
it occurs to me that perhaps you and I aren't so... Oh, dear!
Oh, morning sickness.
The fact that they used that sound.
She's pregnant.
Beatrice, what are you doing here?
I had to look you up in the phone book. The number you gave me was to a pizza parlor in Brownsburg.
What? Are you sure?
Butterscotch, I'm pregnant.
Ooh.
Oh my
Barbara,
God.
Can you give us some privacy, please?
Sure thing, Butterscotch. You take it easy.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Are you certain it's mine?
Whose else could it be?
What do you want to do? Maybe you have a cousin who has a friend who knows a doctor who can take care of such inconveniences. I'm happy to do the gentlemanly thing and pay for the cab fare.
No.
Oh my God.
I can't.
Did you ever hear the story of the couple who moved to California?
I can't say that I have.
Oh, it's a marvelous adventure. You see, they hardly knew each other, but they shared a certain sensitivity and a taste for the unknown. They were living in a one-horse town, so they headed west towards a town that could accommodate 3 horses.
Oh, yes, I think I have heard this story. He wrote his great American novel.
While his wife took care of the baby.
His wife? Oh. Well, I didn't hear about that part.
If she'd have him. If a beautiful creature like herself could ever love an oaf like him.
I think she could.
Yeah?
And isn't that how the story goes?
Nope. So how long before?
Come on,
Yeah.
come on, come on. Sleep.
The baby's hungry.
I tried. He won't eat. I don't know what he wants.
Well, can you figure it out? If I don't sleep, how can I work to support you and the child, let alone have energy left over to write?
Maybe if anyone wanted to pay you for anything you wrote, we'd be able to afford a nanny and a maid. Why won't you just take that corner office job at Sugarman West instead of breaking your back all day at the cannery, and then maybe you could afford me some decent help around here.
You wanted that baby. Never forget that.
I need quiet. Oh, you better be worth all this.
Oh my God.
Well, you're not.
I'm not what?
Mommy's tired, BoJack. I burnt dinner again, but you can pick at the charred remains and delight me and your simple son with stories of your noble salt-of-the-earth co-workers like Eight-Finger Joe and sports team Steve before locking yourself in your study for the night
know
to
what?
chip away at your
Oh my God.
never-ending goddamn novel.
Maybe if the goddamn baby wasn't crying all the time, I could finish the goddamn novel.
I'm not a baby, I'm sick.
Yeah.
Yes, wah, gaga, go.
I'm forming sentences.
Oh, and I can't? Everyone's a critic. I'll take the corner office with the company car, 6-figure salary, and 4 weeks paid vacation. But if my novel becomes bad because I no longer remember what it's like to be working class, we'll know of whom to be blamed.
Well, shit.
Oh. No, a
And
little
then-
to the left.
yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Oh, careful with that. Hello. You're always... Why don't you go outside and play or something?
Wow.
Holy shit.
I don't know why you don't just get a divorce already.
Oh, sure, that's the Hollywood way. We're out of mustard, let's get a divorce. I'm a little sad. Divorce.
Damn.
We've grown apart over the years, and our adult child has moved out of the house, and there's no reason for us to stay together. Divorce.
That actually is a legitimate reason to get a divorce.
Well,
Yeah,
who else
yeah.
can have me now, after what you did to my body?
What I did.
Anyway,
Yeah.
do you want this painting? It's just a bunch of silly stories.
Some
Some people like silly stories.
A lot of good they ever did me.
It's not Ibsen,
Whoa.
but...
It would only depress me.
Damn, and he's
to
even
watch you
using her
bumble around
lines.
like that.
Yeah.
All the sacrifices I made so that you could do this.
Nice. That's
Holy shit.
fucking hell.
We'll pay for your tuition.
Really?
Yes. And you'll give the baby up for adoption.
No.
You think you want this, but you don't. Not like this.
Fuck.
Don't throw away your dreams for this child. Don't let that man poison your life the way he did mine. You are going to finish your schooling and become a nurse. You'll meet a man, a good man, and you'll have a family. But please believe me, you don't want this. Please, Henrietta. You have to believe me. Please
Wow.
don't do what I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
My baby. Where's my baby?
Oh.
Holy
yeah,
shit.
Yeah.
No, please, don't. Stop. Why are you doing this?
Beatrice, remember what we say about crying? Crying is stupid.
But Father, tell them not to burn my things.
But darling, they have to. Your sickness has infected everything.
Wait, I want to hold her.
No, you'll get attached.
Wait,
It all must be destroyed for your own good.
I need to hold her.
This is for your own good.
But not my baby.
Yes, especially your baby.
Wait, no, please come back. I need to hold her. Please.
Come on now, be strong. You can't let your womanly emotions consume you. You don't want to end up like your mother now, do you? One day this will all be a pleasant memory.
And now she sits alone.
Best of luck. See you never.
BoJack?
Is that
Bye, Mom.
BoJack?
Yeah.
What is this place?
This is where you live now.
No. Is it? No.
Mom.
Where are we, BoJack?
I just told you.
I don't understand. Where
Oh.
am I?
You're at the lake house.
I am?
And it's a warm summer night, and the fireflies are dancing in the sky. Your whole family is here, and they're telling you that everything is going to be all right.
Yes, that's right. What else?
The crickets are
Telling me
chirping,
a story, yeah.
and the lake is still, and the night is full of stars.
I can see it. It's so clear. What are we doing here, BoJack?
We're listening to your brother play the piano, and we're eating ice cream. Vanilla ice cream.
Oh, it's all so marvelous.
Can you taste the ice cream, Mom?
Oh, BoJack, it's so delicious.
Holy
Y'all,
shit.
Animation is a beautiful medium for telling stories in such a way that you can't really do to the same extreme in live action. This is one of the most beautifully horrifying episodes we've had in BoJack, but also in a lot of ways, it's one of the most humanizing.
Sure.
Because you can see very painstakingly clearly, even more so than the episode that was previously in this season, where they showed a lot of the stuff that happened to her in the past and stuff. That one with the cabin.
Yep.
Also peak BoJack Horseman, but this one went even more in depth and tied in some ways the part 2 of that story all together here.
Right. And
oh my God.
I love that we have an 11 episode where, and in a lot of ways it makes sense for this because BoJack is starting to do better. So we don't have a disaster that's one centered around him.
Or the present.
Or even the present.
No.
Because there is a disaster. But yeah, we just get it all in the moment of as he's with his mother at the
driving her to the
home.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
Can we linearly just take things in order here?
Yeah.
So what I really love about this is that she's growing up in an era when scarlet fever hasn't been eradicated yet. Right. So when she gets it, it's a very, very serious illness. And yes, they would actually go and burn
the
everything
belongings,
that was associated with the disease when it happened. It's essentially like fumigating the entire place and everything like that. Her life is saved. She's able to live just fine with everything here.
Right.
But she grew up in that home with those parents. And because of that, she has not just a complex surrounding the terror that her father wields and she feels could come down on her in a second. So she arms herself with every bit of fiery independence that she can in order to be built in such a way that she can protect herself from him. And then ends up stumbling into the early kind of rush.
It gets into that
relationship,
rebels and everything, and
it doesn't have a lot of ground to stand on, you know?
Right, exactly, and that ends up being something that, in a more practical way, hurts her, right? Because then it's all of these ways in which your life is made difficult. You know, you have a husband that's not actually wanting to help with the kid. You know,
also she came from a rich home, so she doesn't actually know how to take care of herself beyond. Sass talking and also kind of acquiring knowledge through her own work to better herself. But as far as taking care of a baby, she has no grid for knowing how to do that. She's also cut herself off from all the support system that might have been there from the very abusive but rich family, so that while she was then eventually able to set up her family through probably the just passage of time of just, at the very least, let me be, connected to y'all by giving your husband a job that can then financially support you all. The damage is already done as far as relationships go, because BoJack and the two of them are all fractured to the core as far as relationships as a family goes.
I love the way that BoJack, even like Kid BoJack, didn't actually have much time in this episode. No. Because
we've already seen a lot of that.
And quite frankly, it writes itself, right? We know the things that beget the BoJack's in the middle and they use him as a weapon to basically fight against each other. And so of course all of this stuff happens, right? So instead it's seeing exactly what the case is between the two of them, right? How it was something as both like unstoppable as the practical matters of, hey, you move across the country and all that stuff and you don't necessarily have a plan. It can be great for a story, but when you're actually living it out, it's a bit different. And then the way in which both of them blame the other for you did this in the, you wanted to keep the baby. You won't get an actual good job. This thing that you wanted to try isn't working out. I love that even when the husband is like old, he's still talking about the book that he still hasn't written. Not even a thing of like, oh, he's written a few books and none of them have sold. He hasn't even done the book. Like that's,
As people with passion for writing here, and for someone here who's actually written and fully like shipped and published a book and stuff, it's very unnerving to hear that kind of language. Because it is so common in the writing space that the writers of BoJack probably have also experienced that in some ways as well. So they tapped into that latent passion, but deterred by the inability to commit themselves to hard work.
And then he blames the wife for the fact that it's not happening rather than himself for actually not doing the work. Because, you made me take that job that killed my soul. And,
and it gets taken to comical levels of BoJack, screaming and crying being the thing that actually done there. But then the way in which he mocks BoJack is the same kind of humor that BoJack uses in the present day of the show to laugh at other people's struggles, misfortunes, or pains, or what have you. It's literally the cycle of trauma and abuse being passed along through two people that absolutely did make mistakes and did absolutely have something originally that was innocent and pure and beautiful.
And could have theoretically gone well.
They could have gone well.
Right? Like in the same way that, like, say, the burning of the belongings, right?
Yeah.
Let's say
that's a pretty scary thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And let's say you didn't have a father that was so
psychopathic,
in denial of the importance of emotion that he lobotomizes his wife.
Right, he's a product of the culture of his time.
Right,
but
it's the honey. You know, you're sick. This is, I know it doesn't make sense. You know, but like this has to happen. You know,
it's actually really interesting. Scarlet fever was almost gone around that time. Like it's a much more like late 1800s kind of thing. So I don't know if you know about the Spanish flu.
A little bit.
Yeah. So that was kind of the
early 1900s.
Yes. Pre-World War I. It was one of the biggest recent examples of an epidemic of that nature.
But it was the 100 years before COVID. Yeah.
Right. But scarlet fever was a much more like insidious, it kept popping up kind of thing.
Gotcha.
And I believe it was a long while after vaccines were invented, but it eventually got eradicated. But this is kind of at the end of the era where children were viewed as no longer being just, you just spawn a whole bunch of them for the sake of just, we hope that one of you survives.
Right,
6 years
exactly.
Old, you know?
And if more of you survive, great. That's more, hands to help out at the farm.
Exactly. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really fucked up era for kids, but she's also coming into this world kind of after that's just ended. So the culture, it's almost kind of genius that the culture of the father is such that he lived that era, so he's propagating his abuse of being basically in the era where he was just the survivor. He was just the kid that basically survived.
Right, like it's something where this not only feels like commentary on, like, relationships and abuse and things like that, but it also feels like societal commentary. On, like, since the parents are like different kinds of products of their time, even though we get to know the specifics of their individual lives.
Right.
That you can see the evolution and almost the like abuse zeitgeist of humanity, right? Where it's like, this is the common stuff, and so it begets these things after that, and then that begets the next generation.
This is encapsulating Wesley's line of "life is pain. Anyone who says differently is selling something."
Right.
The idea that the only people that deny that are people that are actively trying to hawk something that is in denial of reality. So it's fun here in a very like sick and twisted way that the show is almost making the point that none of these people are inherently evil. None of them are the originators of the abuse. All of them are products of their environment that perpetuated this thing. And when they were young, when they were innocent, they had that innocence beaten out of them, not by the singular source of abuse, but in the instances on the playground, in the instances of where the fat shaming and stuff led to her then taking the pills, which weren't necessarily just a thing because of them on the playground, but because the father reinforced it of like, you are a little fat. Yes, so we'll get you some pretty pills for sure.
I love that that's something where it was so innocuous within the episode of just a small detail, even though in the previous episode it's the, hey, and here's a situation where Hollyhock almost died as a result of this stuff. And yet when you go into this perspective of just, give me one of my pretty pills and et cetera, it truly was something where that was just a small little detail of BoJack's mom's life. Right. And so it's the why is that a problem? No, she'll get used to it.
It's so wild to think about because then we have all the instances of where this is a memory trip that we're going on here. And while she's lost a lot of her memories and stuff, she still holds on to things like Henrietta, and we find out later why that is. But even then, the amphetamines that are in the pretty pills might have been making those know her actual memories. She never had a true handle on reality at times because she was constantly dosing up with amphetamines over the course of her life, basically.
Oh, okay.
So that could have been like, no, she was constantly in that state of being under the influence of those drugs.
Yeah. No, I could absolutely see that. I'm sure that with the cocktail of disaster and awful that
well said,
was her life and the experiences and all of that stuff, and both with the things done to her and the way in which she propagated it. Something like that. Sure, that could absolutely play. I don't know anything about amphetamines, but I could see that playing a part in it, while at the same time being so small that it's no one, it's not something that's going to be noticed, right? Like when she thinks about like crazy stuff, like the point when she's like, oh yeah, my father was like an ideal husband or whatever, and then she thinks back to
lying through her teeth specifically, like
right, hopefully lying through her teeth, Well,
I think that's part of the point, is that she's losing her like grip on reality to the point where she's like, you want to take this painting? Like, please, like, take it. And then once he's like, yeah, I'll take it. That's all you ever do. Take. Like, she's not clicking with her own
words
senses
and things
and
like
words
that.
in that regard. Like, it's not a thing I think that's entirely just malicious. I mean, she is malicious towards BoJack.
Oh, yeah, but I think it's
hates the fact that he represents everything that she
and it is absolutely her trying to ease her own pain using BoJack as an outlet, and then
as
kidding
she's
herself
done for decades now.
and then kidding herself with this is me being a doting mother, right, as opposed to the no, you're hurting him. And so then, why don't I get any appreciation for things I'm doing for you? Because I don't know about this stuff, so I don't know. But I could see this being a thing where it's she so doesn't want to think about the stuff that has happened to her, right? Because she doesn't know how to deal with it. So then she isn't able to acknowledge the way in which it's informing her actions, because she just doesn't accept it, right? Oh no, my dad was an amazing parent, and this painting, I'm sure you'll love it, or something like that. Why don't you take it? As opposed to no, I don't want this painting around anymore, but also I'm not going to throw it away because that would acknowledge that it's a problem.
Yeah.
Or it's, associated with a problem.
It's also kind of just reminding me in a lot of ways that most of the instances where she's doing this stuff to BoJack, she's conveniently alone. It's the kind of thing where it reminds me why I so vehemently hated her character when she was introduced early in season 2 and stuff. Or maybe even as early as season 1. But the idea that she's kind of a cowardly bully, like she only is in these environments and stuff when he's by himself, basically.
Sure.
It's the kind of thing where if you had one person looking at it from the outside, you go like, hey, what the fuck are you like?
Right.
Like, BoJack, are you going to just
yeah.
There's a whole bunch of things we can go into there with that. But it was cool to see the way in which the writing of the way in which the characters used BoJack in that way then is in the verbiage of the way that he's been speaking to a lot of the people thus far, showing that cycle of abuse continuing, not just in the way in which the parents went through their own ordeal, but also the way in which they taught BoJack basically how to handle things. I liked that Henrietta had the scratch marks over her face.
Yeah.
Almost as like I don't want to acknowledge what I did to you.
Right.
But also you're another example of something that
uncomfortable reminder.
Yeah, that reminds me of what I lost as well.
Right, both from the standpoint of that my life with my husband was terrible, and then also, the whole thing of the dad taking away the doll and burning it right in front of her, and oh hey, I made her do that, but with an actual living baby, and so then her obsession with caring for the baby,
right,
even if it's just a doll, holy shit,
yeah,
and then BoJack goes and throws it away, and it's like, oh yeah, no, that would
yeah,
that would do it.
That would do it. Also, little just funny details. The 2 weeks and 3 months later kind of thing, just to be like subtle exposition of when the time is passing is going is really fun.
Yeah, I like that. And the way in which the things that were burned, granted they're her things, so of course they're going to be precious to her in some way, and we have to burn all the stuff that you touch and things like that to make sure that it's all gone. But the idea that it's like, okay, but is this actually just maybe that the dad didn't want her reading books, he didn't want her whatever. And the fact that there was the casual comment that whether it's in a consciously malicious thing or whether her dad doesn't even realize that that's what he's doing. You don't want to end up like your mother, do you? Like the fact that that's just sort of a casual line that's thrown in there, and it's like, oh my God. Like even after he so doesn't see anything wrong with what he did, that like I don't think it was even done as a threat, because that would require acknowledging it as being something that's not desirable. Right? It's the there was a problem with their emotions, so we fixed that, but oh my God, they're so useless now. Right? So, yeah.
The twist that she made Henrietta give up the baby and kind of ended up helping her husband in the way that he kind of begged her to.
Right.
But used the angle of don't end up like me.
Oh, yeah.
Was so...
in like her last caring actual
twisted
connection with somebody.
Right, because it's okay, so Henrietta is this mystery name that's been attributed to BoJack since she's been, at the house.
Right.
While we have kind of been wondering, like, okay, so who is that? Oh, it's some maid that, kind of worked, back then and stuff. And it's like, okay, cool. So BoJack is basically, the help, the person who's serving her and giving her all this stuff. And it's like, right. She came from kind of like a wealthier side of things. So that's maybe something where she sees BoJack as helpful, but not someone that she really cares about. But over the time, we'd seen this kind of, this kindness to this Henrietta person where it's like, I'm very berating you of like, Henrietta, do your job, Henrietta, why are you not doing this? But also the like, Henrietta, remember, like there's almost like this, I'm kind of your mother in that it's you're supposed to make sure that you're a good Henrietta. Yeah. And we didn't really know why, but now...
Right, we figured it was like a way to mask the continued abuse of BoJack, basically.
Right.
Which, I mean, that could totally be some, part of it, and yet now it's seeming like a much smaller, less significant,
because
aspect to it.
Having the child then be given up for adoption and her having the same, kind of look, pigmentation, freckles in some ways as Hollyhock.
Even some of the same body language.
Well,
like even just the way that she's holding her arm there and stuff. Now, of course, she's super nervous and everything, but like...
You mean like Hollyhock like got that like
it's...
of what, like DNA or something? Like
the little idiosyncrasies that that match up and stuff, right? Like I could totally see Hollyhock being this lady's daughter.
Timeline wise, it does fit. Although I was looking around this time to see if there was any like this baby was born in this year to see if it lined up with our previous
But that would
stuff.
also explain why BoJack wasn't able to find the mom.
Right.
Yes. Because it's not the I've slept with too many people. No, you actually like did a good job of checking in and everything.
Yeah.
It's not any of them.
It's not any of them. But the way in which then this moment of where she repeats the pain of what it was like to lose her baby when it's having a baby and, having something that you care about that's precious to you, that's something you experienced it being ripped away from you at a very young age because you had so externalized your affection source and source of maybe happiness to the only family member you had that actually cared about, which was an inanimate horse object, So the fact that she then does that again here, almost like what BoJack could have been as the redemptive force of this baby that could have been I ended up getting
8
this back.
Awesome, wholesome dads,
Right. No, I deemed all that is worthless, and thus I will then save her from the pain of believing that there's hope for this by taking it away and perpetuating the abuse in that regard. And
well, yeah. The and the thing is, I could definitely see this as having been the right call, right? Well, like from BoJack's mom.
Who's to know? Yeah.
Who's to know?
Who's to know?
But
just not even letting her hold her though.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
Like there's so much in here in which she's repeating the act of being her father in that regard.
Yep.
As well, that is just edited so brilliantly, and then the horrifying.
Oh yeah, the
melting.
Yep. The
visage.
scratching just encompasses everything.
Yeah, and then the melting visage of this horse little pet.
Yep.
Thing just.
And I love that the mom was never shown in this episode. I believe with the lobotomy, it was always like a shadowed out silhouette, even at the party, like when everyone else was shown, even if they weren't in like the spotlights.
Yeah, did your mother pass in a way?
Right. Yeah, and when like the two of them are announcing their daughter, for the party and everything.
She's like shaded in the background.
Yeah, exactly. Even though she's like present on screen, not just at the not just at like the edge or whatever.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where for the purpose of Beatrice, she is effectively dead.
Yeah.
And looking at her and or acknowledging her probably is already a source of pain, not just because of the car accident moment and all these other things scaring the shit out of her, but it being this scary reminder of what it would be like to be under the thumb of her father anymore.
Yeah.
I would love to analyze this episode even more, but I just love the stuff that this means for BoJack to then realize that he got her back for a little bit.
And he does the mercy of the.
I'm going to tell you a story.
I'm going to tell you a story, and it's going to be a happy story, a complete fabrication,
a complete fabrication and a lie.
But in the way that he specifically knows.
Yeah.
What
she needs.
What she needs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's vanilla ice cream. Your brother's playing the piano.
Yeah.
All of these different things
that he knows somehow. And this is the part that I think is magical about this, is that there's a wonderful bit of perspective here that I think is important to have. She is the perspective character this episode. She is in not only delusion, but in dementia, in losing memories. She's losing herself.
Yep.
And in this moment where BoJack is effectively damning her to this room, she gets a sudden serendipitous happy ending because she remembers that it's BoJack.
Yeah.
I think there's a very, very real angle on this where even this is a little bit kind of tinged with fantasy. The idea that she... At the last moment, I always imagined that I would get my baby back and that I would have the ability to have this moment where I'd reconnect with him and I'd do everything right and he would tell me a sweet story and all this would work out. But the fact that we can hold that in tension with the idea that, no, BoJack's in such a place where if his mother came back for him in a moment, he would probably want to have that validation from her of like, this is a wonderful story.
Yep.
You're such a great storyteller. The fact that you're doing what I taught you, even in my fucked up way, to do.
Yep.
I love this about you, BoJack. It's just
right.
Oh,
and
God, me
I think that's one the part of the power of it, in that there is always the possibility for connection, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen and doesn't even necessarily mean it's a good idea.
Yeah.
What happened with Hollyhock was as a result of him attempting to reestablish connection with his mother.
Yeah.
Like, Hollyhock could have died.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Like it's not a whatever, right? Like, so the fact that things are going this way might even still be for the best.
Yeah.
Who knows, right? But, and yet, in the midst of that, he knows exactly what will make this better for her. He knows exactly what she needs, and he is willing to give it to her, even if it's just for this instant, right? Even if after this, he's still going to be like, yeah, no, I paid for 5 years. I don't have to think about you again. But, yeah.
God. I'm so glad this episode went the way it did.
Me too.
It's a very different type of episode 11 than what we've got thus far. It was fundamentally different because of the focus of the story in season 4. It made sense to then continue the cabin episode, if you will, primarily through this medium of the non-linear kind of flitting between present and past and
using the artistic medium to explore to the fullest extent it can.
And having this story end back where it began here with the BoJack, I love that because I was so swept up in the narrative I forgot where the last episode ended.
The way that they had BoJack like glitch in for a second in the memory, that was such a good effect to be like, hey, it's not just that like we're generally going back into the past. No, this is an active present. She is living in the past because of, she's old and all that stuff. While BoJack is going through the steps of signing her up and everything, right? Like that was fantastic. This does make me very curious to see what's going to happen in the next episode, because a lot of the times I feel like the episode 12s are a decent amount disconnected from the episode 11s, usually because what happens with BoJack is so terrible, right? That then there's that need for both for the audience and for the character, that cut of tension, that break, that distance, all of those things. And yet with this, I wouldn't be surprised if they continued immediately after this.
With what?
With like just BoJack dealing with, hey,
Well, in some ways that's a good thing because then he'd be processing a lot of this stuff himself. So that's not a negative, though?
Oh no. I don't think it would be a negative at all.
You just think it's usually a different story, so then
it's the oh shit, a crazy thing happened and now let's go rescue Todd from the improv, theater, right? It's things along those lines where it's the
gotcha.
And so the fact that this was such a small slice of actual time, that makes me really excited for the next one.
Yeah, I agree. Having also just done now, 4 seasons worth of episode 11s, I think this could end up being my favorite one because it feels the most I don't know. It was horrific. But it feels the most, I don't know, human. I guess it's because it's a larger narrative being explored than on average for the episode 11s. Like it's covering a large chunk of time. And
it was very much directly set up with a lot of the mechanical things that happen here, whereas like
and also the actual story things that have been focused on this season.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Another tiny thing. The through line of the pretty pills, as they were called here, being the instigating factor for what ended up causing this to happen to begin with, I actually find really interesting because one of the things that is being implied directly, I would say from a world building perspective, is that she is basically immune to the effects of this stuff. She's been taking it so long over the course of time and stuff that the mom could never end up ODing from amphetamines and stuff like that. Like she's probably taken so much of this stuff.
The fact that Hollyhock OD'd was Hollyhock OD'd was probably as a result of the fact that her body wasn't used to this.
Oh yeah.
And or I wouldn't be surprised if because of the mom's age, she put in more than she normally would have, right?
Right. So I want to pitch something to you here. BoJack has a lot of issues, like mentally.
Yeah.
But he also could theoretically have some physical issues if he was born, if he's her baby, and she's pumping all this drugs into her, and then has a baby
during the pregnancy and everything.
Yeah. Like that could be an actual thing that gets explored at some point. Like,
yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily something I have a lot of like understanding grounds to speak on.
Sure, or like what the ramifications of it would be in like present show.
Right, but it was the fact that in terms of new things that were introduced through this recent story development here, the amount of times we've actually focused on Beatrice's past. The main things that we knew was that the stuff with her father being also very abusive, the loss of her family and mother and everyone around her in that regard, the isolation then leading her into a marriage where she was unhappy. She felt like she needed vindication in some ways, and thus punished BoJack for the purpose of that, or needed to use him as a weapon in a lot of ways here. But most of that was just repeated this episode. We just saw a lot of the more specifics as to how and why. But she was having those pills as early as being a little kid, like right,
because we get because we get the cut of the inception of the whole,
party.
Right, but the whole, you're overweight, you need to lose weight, as a little kid. And then,
somewhere in between that.
In between that, she's a teenager and it's just a part of her daily routine.
Yeah, she calls them pretty pills, meaning it's not just I have a fun name for them. One, that's probably not a name she came up with. Probably not, to make her more willing to take this kind of stuff. But also the kind of casualness of it, like you're talking about, means that it had probably been happening for a while.
Oh, yeah.
So it's all kinds of fucked up in that regard.
And what's crazy is that with all the stuff that we got this episode, who knows how much it will actually get explored moving forward, because BoJack was not privy to a lot of this stuff. He was able to give her the exact story he needed, so he's probably heard a lot of it. But
I see what you're saying.
But she's probably I wouldn't be surprised if she died in the very next episode, And even if she didn't, it's not like she's going to be lucid enough to actually recount any of it. So it's just a thing that we know as far as how she got to be the way that she is now,
Yeah. But as far as episodes to recontextualize a character, again, the people writing this show deserve a lot of praise for episodes like this. This is powerful stuff. It's evocative. I'll never forget it. I think
the shot of the fire in the background and everything is
it was
different
primal.
Characters show up. That was some freaky shit.
It was freaky. I mean, I have my own childhood trauma where it's I'm scared of spiders. I'll never necessarily get over that in any total sense. But the idea of, oh God, just trying to insert myself into her shoes for the sake of empathy. I was shattered when BoJack started sharing the story for the beauty in which this character, this story allowed me to get into the head of an abuser.
Right.
It brought me back to Silent Voice levels where it's oh God, that's a much better story as far as telling the story of an abuser from the child perspective, but from the adult perspective.
Oh yeah, and the way that you don't get that happy ending or whatever, where it's all able to be turned around or whatever. It's no, realistically, it continues, it festers, it takes on a life of its own and gets passed on to everyone around you.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever felt in a fictional narrative this much empathy for a rampant abuser. That's impressive. I think that there's something to be said in that we are all human, even though this is a fictional narrative with animal people and stuff.
Right, yeah.
But the capacity for these types of horrible things come not because you're rotten to the core, it's part of your nature, or what have you. It's your environment.
Yeah, the times that we say rotten to the core, that's a shorthand tool so that we can deal with the practical issue of this is a way that
this is something that's unsalvageable.
Yeah, exactly, right. Like the person's not going to change, and so we have to treat them with the way that they're acting, despite the fact that there's always a story. There's always a story.
Yeah. And I love how much a show like this can rip my heart out for a character that I fucking hate.
Yes.
That's incredible. And then, of course,
Yeah.
BoJack being able to, like the audience, be able to empathize just enough in this moment to share that story.
And the way the tiredness in his voice as he tells that story.
Yeah.
That was just fantastic.
I don't think he's ever shared this story. I think he's improving off the cuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You can tell in the way that he's kind of finding the words. So I got to also give props to the voice actor for really killing it here. And also playing another character in the aspect of his father is really fun. Because we'd heard his voice in points when he was older and stuff and could tell, but the younger version of him that's almost eerily like BoJack, like that kind of dry...
Oh yeah, it's a
faux,
It's a great way to
charisma and stuff.
Nail home the similarities between the two of them when we're not giving the dad a focus episode, right? Or multiple, like mom. So yeah. Well done. This was fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that it wasn't a BoJack disaster. It's a disaster that BoJack has had to deal with his whole life.
Yes.
Right. But that helps build my optimism in an episode that got really fucking dark. So
yeah, very dark.
Yeah.
Last little bit. This is maybe a little dark to end things on, but I think that there's a lot of specific societal pushing in different cultures and stuff that, because we are beings that have we're very complicated animals in that regard.
Yeah.
It is part of our nature to then reproduce and have children. I very much I can make this a little bit more positive. Rather than going the angle of not everyone should have kids. Which is true. But I think that one of the things that needs to be accepted here is that everyone has a story. Figure out what part you're going to play in your kid's story.
Okay. That's a good way of putting it.
That's a very serious, and I mean very serious thing there, because I say this coming from the perspective of someone that had pretty damn good parents.
Yeah, we did.
Like we had really damn good parents for all things considered.
Yeah, like you see the faults as you grow up, and you're like, oh, they're people too,
But like really consider what part you're going to play in your kid's story.
And your own story, not to take away anything from what you're saying, but like the fact that for both of BoJack's parents, they kind of got to this point where their story was happening to them. And so then there was a lot of like responsiveness and taking it out on BoJack and stuff. And it's like,
because we didn't focus on their activity. Like in a lot of ways, that's even the dad's thing specifically was he stagnated. He did not have it in him to persevere. He didn't. And the mom did not have it in her to raise a baby. She didn't know. Yep. I absolutely understand the world they grew up in. In a lot of ways, though,
the show did a fantastic job of
presenting that. But I think in our day and age here, ignorance is only in the capacity to which you desire to remain so.
Right.
We have so much access to so much information and stuff, and parenting as a whole has skyrocketed in terms of the capacity to do it more effectively. Whether that means people are actively doing it, it's a whole other thing. But the actual capacity and the amount of valuable information and learning and things that we've, just improved on in general, still realize that you're creating little stories regardless of whether you're going to have kids or not. So just realize that you're going to have a role in everybody else's story. And this is not a doom and gloom message as the not everyone should have kids thing. But I think we can use stories and narratives like BoJack Horseman to explore what role we're going to have in somebody else's story. And like you were saying, what role you're going to have in your own.
Right.
So, very heavy stuff, but
oh man,
fantastic episode, and we're really excited for the next one. If you want to see
next episode's gonna be great.
The next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about animated shows in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel. So yeah, if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.